Hi, so welcome to this video. It's a short introduction to easier encounters. Now, this is one of my little white books, so there's no real game mechanics in here. It's just kind of game role-playing advice, game mastering advice, that sort of thing. So what you get is um, I see kind of encounters as the real building blocks of everything we do. We use encounters for building adventures, and adventures build into campaigns and so on. Um, And so I'll talk a little bit about encounters and what prompted the book, and then we get into what I call the ingredients of an encounter. And the first one is the stakes. What is at risk for the characters? Why would they choose to engage with the encounter in the first place? The next one is about player choices and character choices, and avoiding the whole railroad situation, or the three-lane highway, which is kind of where there's an illusion of choice, where yes, you can go that way, this way, or the other way, but it actually makes no difference at all because whichever way they go, they're still going to meet the same encounters down the road. Um, then you get into kind of the goals of encounters. What do the characters hope to achieve from the encounter? So goals, so the stakes, the goals, and the choices are all character and player centric, and then you get the consequences. Now, the consequences of an encounter are for the game master. These are our levers. This is what we get to play with, um, because the encounter, you, um, if the players lose an encounter, then there could be negative consequences. If it's a social encounter, they may not get the assistance they need. They may not get information which may have been helpful. If it was an exploration encounter, then maybe they're taking a harder path, a more roundabout route, or maybe their path becomes blocked by sheer cliffs, or by flooding or something like that. Yeah, and then a combat encounter could lead to capture, character death, this sort of thing. Um, for the villain that's behind the whole campaign, they have a plan and they want these things to happen. If the characters are defeated, or they fail to achieve their goals, then the villain's plan is likely to proceed as a consequence. If the characters do interfere with the villain's plans and they defeat the villain's minions, or uh, they expose the plot, then the villain is going to have to adapt or plan around them or take notice of the characters. So there's always consequences from an encounter, whether it's success or failure. Um, Now, Donkey Kong encounters are a particular idea that I deal with here. It's just an analogy of how it's such a simple game. Each barrel you deal with, if you remember the game Donkey Kong, is an encounter, and you can smash them if you can get hold of the hammer. You can avoid them. You can there's lots of different approaches. Um, so yeah, I talk about that for a little while. And I also mentioned Atomic Robo and Dr. Dinosaur. Um, and then combined encounters, where you're mixing kind of social exploration and combat all in one encounter, mixing two parts, three parts, and so on. Um, Oops, there we go. And then about building encounters and layering encounters, and again we go through sort of the consequences, stakes, goals, and the choices. And then, yes, now encounter lore. This is using encounters to eliminate the world, and engage the characters in the world. So, one of your kind of the goals of the encounter is to make the world more believable. So yeah, I talk about that for a little bit. And then campaign encounters is about building individual encounters into adventures, then adventures into the campaign. And um, I give a kind of a villain's grand plan of what they want to achieve. Now, of course, none of that is set in stone. That grand plan assumes no player involvement. And then as the encounters play out, then the villain will need to adapt their plan to take to account the player characters. Um, and so, yeah, then there's a little conclusion at the end which brings things together. Okay, so that's what you get. It's a 62-page little book. It's probably an afternoon's read. Probably 60 pages of real content once you ignore the covers and the content. Okay, thank you for watching.